So you've been working with a real estate agent, you can't find a house, and now you want to build, but you still have your real estate agent. What do you do? We are going to get into that today in this video. Hi, I'm Sheila Cohoon. I'm a local real estate agent in Clinton Township, Michigan, and this is Tina B from the Custom Build Academy. We're going to talk today about the relationship between the buyer, the buyer's agent, and the construction company or the builder. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is that relationship between the buyer and the buyer's agent and what happens in that relationship long term, right? So when you are out looking at homes, you are in a contract with a buyer's agent. You're in that contract with a buyer's agent because a buyer is representing you when you are looking at homes and in case you want to put an offer. They're working for you in your best interest, keeping everything confidential, and they're working in the best fiduciary responsibility for you as a buyer. So just like everybody wants to do when they are working is they want to get paid. That's the relationship as a buyer that you have with your buyer's agent. Okay. If an agent doesn't find a house for you, or if you don't find a house and you decide to build, okay, well, let me take a step back. In that relationship that you have with your buyer's agent, you you are going to negotiate a commission to the buyer's agent. So the agent's going to negotiate with you, and you're going to negotiate with the buyer's agent to come up with a commission that you want to pay, or that the buyer agent will accept. Okay, all commissions are negotiable. So that is the first question that you should ask a buyer's agent is, what is your commission? Because if a seller does not offer a commission to a buyer's agent, then the buyer is responsible to pay the buyer's agent broker the commission. So, and this is why it's important, because we're going to get into the topic of builders, and with builders, you don't have a seller, right? So who's going to end up paying that commission? So it's important to understand that buyer broker and buyer relationship and how the buyer broker will get paid in a transaction. So now we're going to pivot.
Pivot! 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 Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
We're going to pivot into that buyer broker or buyer agent and builder relationship. So I'm a buyer's agent, and I have a client that wants to do new construction. Enter Mrs. Builder Tina B. I am going to do what as an agent? Can I contact you as a builder?
You can contact me as a builder.
Okay. Can my buyer contact you as a builder?
Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. The one thing that I would recommend as a buyer's agent or a buyer is to let the builder know that you do have. So if you're a buyer's agent, you need to let the builder know that you have a client, that you are working with someone and you are representing them. If you are a buyer and you have an agent, then you need to let the building company know, the construction company or the builder know that you do have an agent and you are under a contract with that agent. It's important because the agent still needs to get paid for the work that they did. Pivoting again.
Pivot!
That relationship now that the builder has to have with the buyer and the buyer's agent. So, Tina, have you ever worked with a real estate agent when you have, I mean, you've done what, 30 years of building and you've done custom home builds. Have you ever worked with a real estate agent in a transaction?
No, not as a custom builder.
As a custom builder, what usually happened?
Usually what happens is the real estate agent will end up representing the buyer purchasing land. the buyer purchases the land, that dissolves the relationship between the agent and the buyer. The buyer owns the land, then goes and seeks out a builder to get the building process started in the custom, building world. So before, when you said that there's no real estate agents or selling agents involved in builders, but there can be, like we talked about the other day, the spec home builders, they can be real estate agents themselves. But here in the state of Michigan, even a production home builder, okay, would, I believe, have to have some sort of real estate license or brokerage license. And then people coming in, they usually hire their own sales agents within that company, because you don't have to have a real estate license to sell for a production builder. You have to have, in the state of Michigan, you have to have a sales license in the state of Michigan to sell.
Correct.
So let's say I was building spec homes, and I was actually I'm the builder, so I don't even think you need to. We'd have to look into that. But as the builder, I could employ somebody to sell those homes for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so long as
There's a
they had
company.
a license, a sales license for the state of Michigan.
Correct. And I
Right.
do know that because I know an agent that actually is a real estate agent who sits and does that for a local builder here. So,
Yeah, production builder. But
yep.
in the case of the custom builder, in which you were referring to, is no, I've never worked with the real estate agent. Usually, an agent will help people find land, and then the customers will come and find the builder. So
Okay. So really you're there after they've already purchased the land, which we could go down that rabbit hole. I suggest you contact Tina B Custom Build Academy, and go in there, get into the community, because the buyers should really be, and the agents should really be understanding the property, the soil, the actual property, and things like that before you even really think about building. You have to understand, what property should I be buying. So I suggest you contact Tina B and get into her Custom Build Academy community. It's free. You can just get in there and really ask questions, and download resources and things like that. So we'll get back to all of this. So
so we
yeah,
were we were talking about, I've never dealt with a real estate agent. So
right. So you've not dealt with a real estate agent. So Um, I have I've done several transactions with buyers who ended up going new construction, and all I did was contact the builder, and I told my client to also let the builder know that she is working with a real estate agent. And so from that point, it's between the buyer and the construction company or the builder. My job as a real estate agent is kind of not not so important at that point, other than maybe just providing some guidance, um, not 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 answers, not like I'm going to answer for you. I'm going to be the person that talks to the builder. That's not what a buyer's agent does. So if the buyer decides, hey, I want to still keep you here, you are still my agent, you're still representing me. Um, I'm just there as kind of a guide, as uh, my experience is like those type of things. So, so as a buyer's agent, that's what you should expect from your buyer's agent when they're working with you on a new construction. We're going to now talk about that commission part when it comes to buyer's agents and builders, because this gets kind of it kind of gets a little convoluted. Um,
little
and here,
sticky.
yeah, it gets a little sticky because I'm going to give you the answer up front. The buyer pays the commission to the agent. Okay. So, like, at this point, you can probably just leave the video, but I would encourage you to stay to the end. Um, and here's why, because the con the contract between a builder and a buyer who has a buyer's agent, the buyer's agent still needs to be paid. So that builder needs to either put into a contract that the buyer's agent's going to get paid, or, and I keep saying buyer's agent, but it's really the broker that gets paid, and then the agent gets paid through the broker. Um, so, so that relationship between the builder and the agent can happen through a contract, or the agent and the buyer will decide, um, at maybe at closing or when the mortgage closes, that the agent will get paid. Um, Chris, we were talking about this offline. So some of the questions that we had were, how would the agent get paid through somebody like you, like a custom home builder? How could some of the scenarios happen from the builder's side for an agent to get paid?
Basically, so for an agent or anybody in the sales force to get paid commission, the product has to exist, right?
Correct.
Is that
Yep.
safe enough to say? Okay.
Yep.
When the deal starts to happen, okay, there's a lot that goes into custom building. So, let's just say that,
So let's say I bring a particular client to you, and they want to build a house. So what are those boom steps, right? Like, don't go, granular, just, surface, like step by step by step.
right. Well, we would have to understand now, do they have the property purchased already, or are we rolling the property into this loan? What are we
We're
doing?
rolling the property in. The client doesn't have the property yet. They're just looking. We're going to be rolling the property into the loan. And hey, I got a little piece of paper that has a drawing on it, like, so to
Yeah,
speak.
that's great. I love little, if it could be a napkin, that would be better. We preferably draw
We
on a
could probably
napkin.
draw it on a napkin.
Yeah, that's, I think I took a picture today. One of the guys that came in today gave me a small little slip, and it said 60 by 40. I need pricing on the steel roof, steel siding.
That's hilarious.
That's it.
That's hilarious. But you probably quoted him though, right, Chris?
No, I had a whole bunch of questions. What's the pitch of the roof? That's gonna
Right?
matter. How tall are the walls? That's gonna matter. So are you
Too
using
funny.
purlins? Are you using anyways? Um
So what are the step by steps then? If I bring a client to you and they haven't bought the property yet, okay?
yeah.
Just a surface, not a granular. We can do a granular in a different video, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, we would definitely have to kind of nail down that property, right? We would, right? Even in the sale of everything, right? You'd have to say, okay, you know, um, this property checks off all the boxes. Okay, now this is the plan I want. So the builder is going to have to get a lot of things estimated for the whole entire build. And with that comes the whole scope of work thing, right? So we need to know what the customer is going to put in the house, right, in order to give a number. So on a granular level, we can talk about all that later. But so let's say I've done all that with the builder. I mean, I've done all that with the buyer, and we came down to a final um cost of the house. Okay.
Okay.
So that plus the property, that's going to be what the buyer's agent would consider a purchase agreement price. Okay.
Okay.
All right. But inside that budget, and if I can speak freely, inside that budget, I would put the commissions that I would have agreed upon with the buyer's agent. I
Okay,
would have just
so
put that right in the budget.
but what if a buyer and a buyer's agent already have a contract that says, "Hey, I'm gonna the buyer's agent or buyer broker slash buyer agent and the client have a agreed upon, let's say for example 4%, okay? Do you have to honor that 4% uh to that client? I mean, wouldn't you have to kind of honor it through like their mortgage? I mean, they're
No,
essentially, if they're paying 4%, through a
no,
buyer and
no.
buyer broker. No?
No, buyer and
Okay.
buyer's agent. Okay. That's their contract.
Yep.
Okay. As the builder doing the meat and potatoes of almost everything, I'll set the tone for what I think a real estate agent should get. And in my mind, it would just be a referral fee, right? I mean, I'm a good builder, I'm empathetic, and I understand that the real estate agent would have time in with that client, especially if they were looking for houses and now they feel like their option is maybe to build. But man, the custom building world combined with a land purchase is a way different than just buying a house. So the commission level, especially you know, there's so many things that can happen when you purchase a house. You're in a limited time frame, right? You have a 30-day window and, or 45-day window to get all the title and closing documents and all that. But when you're dealing with a build, you've got 8 months, every bit of 8 months, it depending on the custom house, right? I mean, you could even go up to 2 years. So anything could happen in life with that, right? So,
Right.
but anyways, so I would take that estimated price, even though I would do a cost plus job with the buyer, okay? I would take that estimated price and I would base a commission to the agent off of that estimated price, but it would not be nowhere near 4%. No. Because I mean, you're talking about, let's just say for S and Gs, it's 500,000 is the whole project with the land. I mean, 4% on 500,000, you know, um, it, you know, that to me, that's a lot to begin with, especially when the agent, just referred somebody to me. Why would I give him 4%? I think because the agent's really not going to be totally involved once the digging starts, right? They're not really going to be involved until the maybe end if they're still if they're still holding up their agreement with their buyer.
Right.
The agent's going to maybe walk through the house at the closing. I would still recommend to get a third party home inspector on new construction. So that part is all the same, but I would not, as a builder, pay a real estate agent.
Just
uh,
just what they agreed upon with their buyer, right?
no, I wouldn't. No, that's between them.
Right.
And
So
they would just have to work it out on their side. So
so in other words, and again, I'm going to go back to the answer that I gave. The buyer is really paying everything, so they're ultimately paying the commission. So if the buyer and the buyer broker slash buyer agent have agreed upon 4%, but the builder is saying, listen, I'm gonna do 2% um to build the house,
yeah,
then they can build that into the product. Ultimately,
the
the
buyers.
buyer is paying the money. So
Yeah,
like if you as a builder put in 2%, you're putting in 2% that the buyer is going to pay.
yeah. I'm
So
just adding 2% to the budget.
correct.
Yeah,
So I mean, you could say, "Hey, I'll do 4%," but ultimately it's coming out of the buyer's thing.
right.
So if the and by making the buyer pay the entire commission, um you're actually lowering how much they can actually um buy a house for or build a house for because you're adding in now that commission.
Yeah,
You're adding that commission in now. So it's actually better if you actually negotiate differently the commission on a new construction because the seller, there's no seller, the seller's not paying for it now. So the buyer's literally paying for the entire commission.
yeah,
So
yeah. Not the builder. Please, buyers, don't think for a minute that the builder's going to take out of their
no,
profit to pay the real estate agent. Nope. All we're going to do is add that to the budget. It's
exactly.
part of the cost.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. I mean, I don't know. It's pretty cut and dry on how an agent will get paid in a new construction, or I should say a new construction slash custom home build,
yeah,
period.
yeah,
And you would put that in. So let's pivot now. Let's talk about pivot. So let's pivot now to when does okay, we discussed how much the agent, it's always negotiable, but um we've talked about the commission payment. So when do they get paid? Because this has been a question that has come up recently, and I want to make sure that everybody understands when an agent gets paid, so that they have some education behind them when they're working with a buyer's agent and a builder and things like that. So
Yeah.
when in the process of building does an agent get paid by a custom home builder?
So where the home has to get built, then it would be on the last draw. It could be two things. Like, so we could do it on the last draw once we get a certificate of occupancy. So I could do the last draw. Okay. And we're talking draws are from the bank. Okay. Usually there's about 5 to 6 draws. Okay. So the last draw I submit to the bank. The bank says once you get a certificate of occupancy, then we'll release the funds. So I could draw for the real estate agent at that point. But that's kind of a little sticky because you're not supposed to draw on something that hasn't already been done, right? Well, she did do all her work way up front. So you gotta, okay, now we have a product, so I can pay her commissions. Okay. The land is now part of that product. Okay. So I would do it on the last draw, or I would most likely, because I'm involved with the bank, because I had to do the submittals and the sworn statements and stuff like that, and I answer a lot of their questions on those construction loans and everything. I would ask them, how best should we handle this? Do you want me to do it on the last draw, or do you want me to not draw it, put it in the budget, not draw it, and then when the construction loan gets converted over to a mortgage, then does the real estate agent get paid at that time? That's how I would have approached it, you know? So,
So ultimately, a buyer's broker slash buyer agent should not get paid until there is a product.
so the certificate of occupancy
Oh,
that
okay.
clears all parties. Yeah.
So the certificate of occupancy is what? Just so we can refresh everyone.
It's the certificate that allows you to take ownership of the home. Basically, it says that the local municipalities and the state level and everything's been satisfied and all the inspections have passed. It's a
And is
safe
that
and
where they
completed
get
home.
is that where they get the warranty deed too?
No, the warranty deed comes from, I
The
mean, the
bank?
certificate of occupancy comes from the building department. Warranty deed comes from the processor, I believe.
Okay, so when they complete the mortgage, then that's probably when they'll get the warranty deed or when they go to the assessor's office.
Yeah, they'll get it in that when they convert the construction loan over to a mortgage.
Right.
That's when they'll get the warranty deed.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah,
And the warranty deed means like this is your house, like you own
yeah,
it now and everything.
right.
Um, so you would particularly pay the agent or the buyer broker at the last draw and after you have the CFO, correct?
Yeah,
Okay. And not before at all. So,
no,
yeah, I do agree with that. The scenarios that I've had in the past is um, I didn't get paid, and it was like 10 months, and we had delay after delay after delay, but I didn't get paid for 10 months
yeah,
after a new construction was done.
right,
And that's just the nature of the beast. I mean, real estate agents in general don't get paid until closing. So that's just it. That's just how the world works for real estate. So um, no agent will get paid prior to closing unless, I mean, there's always a caveat unless they've like negotiated something, but I can't see any business offering to pay someone, 20,000 or 15,000 or whatever it is, and then there's no product. Like to me, that just is not good business practice. So I can't see that ever happening. So,
right.
and I just want to reiterate, like any information in this video is for educational purposes. So you need to make sure that you call title companies, call builders, talk with a real estate agent to make sure that you are getting the right information for your area or for your situation. So, um, yeah. So I hope that this video has been helpful for people on working with a buyer broker slash buyer agent, and then working with deciding to do a new construction. So,
Okay.
Tina B, where can people find you um, if they need to contact you for a consultant, right? Or to
Yep.
possibly build, or just some overall questions, or to get into your community? Where can they find you at?
Yeah, yeah, you can definitely go to custombuildacademy.com, all spelled out. Okay, and in there, you just got to go over to join our VIP community. And once you click on that, you just put in your email, your name, and then fill out some just information. Like once you get into the community, like create your, just tell everybody in the community, your name and who you are and everything, and do your little profile picture that way. Because there's a bunch of people in the community. It's a lot of fun. People trade information as far as like they'll exchange like, hey, what do you guys think about this faucet, or how do you like these colors together? And and then there's a lot of free resources that I have up on there, and then I have the consulting calls as well. um and then I have the courses. I have mastery courses, and then I have smaller courses for people. So the smaller courses are all encompassed in the mastery course. Okay, so if you're going to choose to buy the mastery course to learn all about building the entire process, okay, then you won't need to purchase any of the little courses because they're all inside that mastery course called Know Your Way Home. So, but schedule a consultant call. You can do that inside the community just by clicking on Ask Tina B, and it'll take you right to the consulting page, and then you can schedule your time. And it's an hour long. It's your time. We go over anything that you need. As a matter of fact, in the forum, you'll check off exactly what kind of topics that you want to talk about. And yeah, it's a Zoom meeting just like this, and we handle all the questions that you might have. And if there are some where I need to find out more information, then we'll stay in touch, and I end up finding that information out for you and stuff. So I've been doing this for 30 years and very passionate about making sure people do things the right way. So know the process. And
Yeah,
and we
it's
hone in on that.
people can do things the wrong way a lot. So
Yeah.
I Tina built our mom's house too, and it used it many times for her uh,
Model.
yeah, her model to show people it's beautiful home on 5 acres up in Lapeer, and it's just amazing. So she definitely knows her stuff. I suggest you reach out to her. If you have questions, get into her community, real estate agent or potential client to build a home. So,
Yeah.
and then
Oh, we
if
do
you,
have we do have the realtor course coming out soon. It's all about property, understanding property. It's
yes,
called What's Land Got to Do with It? And
what's
it's a really
land
good
got to do?
do
Got to
got to
do,
do with
got to
it.
do with it.
I know.
What's land? That's funny.
Yeah. So, and if you go on to the website Custom Build Academy and you go down on the homepage, you'll see just click in there to say what's included, and it'll give you a description of the course and also the resources that are involved. Course resources and yeah, the outline. So we haven't released that yet, but that's going to be a doozy because it goes over so many things that you need to know about land. And I believe that this course is going to help real estate agents be able to obtain more listings, kind of beef up that part of their business, because they're going to be a semi expert on that. They're going to know what to look for. They're going to feel more confident to take on land listings. Sometimes people don't take on land listings. You got one or two things. You got a real estate agent who underestimates it and takes it on, and okay, and then you've got some real estate agents that don't want to take it on because they don't know, right? So, and unfortunately, land doesn't sell as much as houses. But I tell you what, there's a good part of the year that you can sell land, which I always advise. This is when you should go look for land at a particular part of the year.
Bonus.
And
Bonus.
Huh?
Give them a bonus. When is that? When is that time?
March and April, right now. Go. Get out there.
There you go. And why?
Yeah. It's
And
because
why?
it's because
It's the
the
rainy
snow is
time, right? The
well,
melting
the snow
snow
melting
and the
snow,
spring, right?
frost is coming out of the ground,
Yep.
and it's raining, so you absolutely get to see a lot. Plus, all the foliage is down, so walking a property is better in this time of year. You don't have, fat leaves slapping you, or we were walking through spider webs because they've come out for the spring and summer.
Exactly.
So, but anyways, yeah, I'm looking forward to having that, going through that course. That's going to be fun. And then, yeah,
And
so I appreciate you.
just understanding your soil, like that for me, that was the biggest thing when I first started working with Tina. Um, and she is my sister, so I mean that's a thing. But I just understanding the soil, like it never occurred to me when I started doing real estate, like understanding what the soil has to be in order to have a good build, to have less money that you're paying out for, development of that land, for a basement or a septic or a well or whatever, you know, uh, salty water, what happens with that. So there's just so much. There's just so much that you can learn just by getting into the community. And I encourage that. So thank you, Tina B, for
You're
your
welcome.
time today. I appreciate it so much. You are such a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, thank you.
And everyone, click in the link, get into her community, and we'll talk another time.
Thank you.